Seriously? Don't be a dick. I believe you. The truth is that many times parents don't know what to do with us, especially when we reach the point of doing drugs and not even bathing, not wanting to eat, or let's say you do eat. But for example, in this case, many people say that you lose weight because you're just doing drugs all day. There are other people who gain weight. For example, if you just did smoke pot, and that's also a health problem because you're also very fat. You keep smoking pot, you become lazy, you become a slacker, and the damn pot makes you keep gaining weight because it gives you hunger by relaxing the muscles and intestines, and even more if you have thyroid problems, diabetes, or predisposition. Obviously, it's not the same level of suffering, but being a junkie is also getting very skinny like a skeleton, as being junkie is also getting very fat, very pig-like. And it can be because of both addictions, and both addictions mess you up. Because here we're going to stop saying that it's just a little plant and nothing happens. No, no, no. And yes, it does, and it does even more when you start consuming from a young age. Yes, it does happen in things, and many people do take it as a stepping stone that I've tried this now, I'm going to the next. I'm going to what's next. And what's next until now, what you've told us, is really not like that. Until now, you haven't told us about other substances. I imagine that later you're going to tell us everything else, because we have to recognize that this story is just beginning. I don't know if you've noticed, but this movie plot is just opening. It's unfolding. So we understand the desperation of both parties, both the family of the addict or the alcoholic and the addict and the alcoholic. In this way, it should be clarified that it's not about blaming. You were to blame. You were to blame. You are responsible. It wasn't you. There are things like that. Here it's about telling things straight, because we also don't agree that the family, yes, the family is already messed up because everyone comes from genes of messed up people. In this case, as you say, well, my two grandfathers were killers. My dad wasn't a killer because he didn't grow up with his dad, but his grandfather walked around with a gun. Both of them and the other one came here to the city to change his name. So if you think about it, and although they never admitted it, you know they did. They killed people. Now, both of your grandfathers were in jail, so this is similar to hereditary diseases, diabetes, all that comes predisposed to that same thing. So you have to be very careful not to fall into that. Look, folks, the truth is that this podcast, this video podcast, as you want to call it, is made exclusively to raise awareness among people and learn from the pain that others have gone through so that you can avoid it. This is the only objective. We are not here to prove or demonstrate anything bad. Here it is explained. Here everyone explains what they want to say and says what they want. If they want to be totally descriptive, they do it. But that doesn't mean that, I explained how to do it step by step, so you can do it here. Everyone decides if after listening to each chapter, they will do the good or the bad they heard here. Obviously, the best would be not to break any of the laws where you live. Respect all the laws. Obviously not to consume any type of drugs, because even if it's marijuana, it's difficult to quit. That's the reality, especially because there isn't as much physical withdrawal syndrome if you feel a hangover, but more than anything, because there's like a psychological hangover. It's the psychological dependence, which is very tough, obviously. All the other drugs or substances that alter the behavior of the person's brain and are already synthetic, even other plants, but are much stronger, because let's say that marijuana is like the mildest it couldn't be considered, between quotes. We're not saying it like that. The authorities, the scientific community indicate that it starts with marijuana, and then they jump to other substances. It doesn't always happen that way. There are many cases where it doesn't happen, but obviously there are many cases where it does. But doing it is like taking a gun with one bullet, a revolver, and 1 out of 6 probabilities. I say this is an example. It doesn't mean that 1 out of 6 is the rule, but it's the probabilities. Let's say as an example that it can make you addicted? No. It's not 1 out of 6. It's much higher, no much more, with heavier drugs like crack. For a reason, it's called the lady crack for that fear, that respect it infuses no. I would also say the Lord alcohol, no, because it infuses fear and infuses respect. Right now, you haven't reached that part yet. We're just at that point of you're going to reach the rehabilitation clinic and see what's up, what happens inside, how the water moves inside, with which assholes am I going to be locked up. Where does each dude come from? Because let's be honest, the truth is that in those places, there are already people who you know have criminal knowledge or even another type of knowledge. Not that they come trained from another side. They already know how, and obviously that they arrive at those types of places already messed up. No, I don't want to get ahead of your story, but by the experience that, thank God, thank life has given me, there are always these types of patterns. No, it's always incremental. No, as long as you don't want to stop, then I want you to tell us how it was. How it was. You already told us in the sentence. It was either you leave the house or you accept the help. Now I want you to tell us what happened next. How you felt, what you thought. What you felt. How was that arrival to that place? What things did you find? What things were allowed? How was the place? What type of authorities were there? Was there self-government? Where the people inside are the ones in charge. That's why we're there. Not saying any signs and from which country we are or anything. No, the people who want to intuit what they want to. Intuit, know what is understood is what they will understand. But here we are not again. Right, we are not mentioning codes. We are not mentioning anything okay. We are not burning people. Then, how was it to cross that door of that place? Did your parents accompany you as far as they accompanied you? Because I can't imagine. But here it's spoken with the respect of a jail. A penitentiary, it's not compared to the nightmare of a maximum security prison. Much less, I can't imagine such messed up people. But obviously it's not the same level, but there are beginnings, there are indications. Okay, so I want you to tell us all that, because it's that moment where you are. You alone. Alone against everyone, you alone against the world. You're almost arriving naked, like this, one hand forward and one behind. But you're not arriving at your uncle's house. You're arriving with pure assholes. You're arriving with pure dudes who have already been in jail because they come from other heavier places. And who are already guys who could have even killed, kidnapped, raped, extorted, tortured. So transmit that to us. Please, go ahead.
Damn, bro, seriously, just telling it like it is. Honestly, even now that I remember, I feel like fucking nausea, like I want to vomit from the fucking fear and everything I felt before crossing the doors of that place. Bro, no, because honestly, even though they tell you it's a rehabilitation center, that it's not an annex, that it's a clinic where supposedly my boss told me there were doctors, nurses, psychiatrists, and psychologists, meaning they medicate you and all. They give you pills, or whatever. Despite that, you think, no way, man, there's going to come a time when I'll be alone. Imagine back then I wasn't messed up. I mean, I was a homeboy, the classic one who opened the fridge and it was full of food. Not always bursting, but that's why I was a bit chubby as a kid. Well, then I was 18, bro, right? And the truth is, I thought about it. I thought, no way. What's going to happen in there, dude? What are they going to do to me? Of course you think they're going to rape you, that they're going to do all sorts of shit to you. And, well, no choice, bro, right? I had to accept it. There was no other way, I told my boss. Well, seriously, no choice. Well, I'm already screwed. Well, that day, the truth is, I remember more of the survival details, bro. I don't remember how many changes of clothes they let us have. Most likely it was 3 changes of underwear, You know what's in that we will, yes. Right? And one set of casual clothes, 3 changes of pants and 3 t-shirts. Well, then we went that day. We entered, and from the outside it looks well painted, the facade of the place. I think they didn't let you bring a blanket because they gave it to you there, bro. When they give you your mattress, you carry it rolled up. I said goodbye to my bosses, bro. You're received by a social worker, a nurse. You know, right? They ask you a bunch of questions and you're there with your ass in your hand thinking, damn, motherfucker, don't take so long. Well, I mean, at the same time, you're scared, but at the same time, you also want to get in because you think, well, if it's going to suck, let it suck already, right? So I've always been like that. I mean, I didn't tell you, but as a kid, for example, if they were going to give us shots, man, to me and my sister, for example, to draw blood, I would say, no, well, inject me or draw blood from me first, right? Because I thought, well, better I suffer first, because if I see my sister suffer first and then it's my turn, I'll feel worse. So I've always been like that in that aspect, right? I mean, when I'm like that it's going to suck, I say, well, fuck it, let's go, well, no fear. I'm bold. I didn't tell you, but as a kid, I really liked stealing things from local and big stores. I would steal the juices and put them in my balls and drink them in the bathrooms. Ha ha! I didn't even enjoy them because I was afraid of getting caught. I was never caught, thank God. I don't know, I think the guards noticed, but they told me to fuck off. Going back to the clinic, you go through a door, and there your family leaves you behind. You say goodbye, you scream like a girl, ha ha ha, and from there's a cop. You keep walking, and inside, well, you see some fuckers playing soccer, basketball, and all that shit. Other guys here without shirts, with tattoos, and you think, no way. They were some age, and some guys already quite old. Now, imagine 30 and 40 years old, already real jailbirds, fucked up, with knife wounds on their bodies, and me, an 18-year-old fat pothead who's afraid to fight. A sure loser. Ha ha ha. That's the truth. Although at 11 years old I had gone to boxing classes for a year, and the truth is that I did know how to hit, but I was afraid. But that will come later, right? But where I entered, and right away they start looking at you. You see how they start murmuring about you. The nurse showed me my bed where I would sleep. I was in the first hallway, right at the entrance. There were 2 dormitories, one for women and one for men, each with a surveillance area, and the nurses were also there. Over time we found out that the doctor and the nurse fucked. When everyone went to sleep, ha ha ha, the nurses are real horse proven. Well, then I started to make my little bed, and damn it, and I was thinking, no way, what's going to happen? It's going to suck. Today is my first night. They're going to give me my welcome. You're just thinking that night is going to come because that's the truth. I mean, the fucking hour that affects you the most, psychologically, is when night is going to come, when the sun starts to go down. Because that day I arrived around 2 in the afternoon, or a little later, when supposedly everyone was resting, some not. Were they digesting, playing sports or board games, what is allowed there? Suddenly a guy comes here, a kid but fucked up man. He looked like he came from the correctional facility, shaved and with the demeanor of a boxer, no fat, very muscular. Later I found out that he practiced boxing. He asked me which neighborhood I came from and why I was there. I answered his questions. But I have insurance and only but star. Problem at that moment, since I was scared, I look very serious. When I'm scared, I get very serious, and people think that I'm being a jerk, conceited or rude. But no, I mean, I was so fucking paralyzed and tense from the fear I felt. I felt the fucking blood running fast inside me, my face very hot. It was from that uncertainty of not knowing what the fuck is going to happen. The fucking adrenaline, cortisol, all that mixed together, and the fucking anxiety. Well, I answered everything he asked me. He told me, "No, bro, relax, there's no problem here, it's relaxed. Oh, there's a sign that's here. Said they love and they do what themselves." He left, and before leaving, I shook his hand. He looked friendly and calm, but he had a look full of arrogance. And I thought, is it okay for me to be talking to this guy? Is it bad for me to answer his questions? And I was thinking like that in the dormitory. Then I went out, bro. I went out to the hallway that led to the gym, to the patio, to the dining room, to where the laundry and dishes were washed, the service area. Let's say it was the main hallway. You could also go out to the street from that hallway, but that exit was supposedly guarded. But if you wanted, you could escape. Anyway, well, then I go out into the hallway and I said, well, I'm going to go to the gym to see what's up. And damn, man, I'm entering the fucking gym because I thought it was empty. Damn. And Arnold said, listen, they doing, why you? Damn, there were like 15 or 20 assholes and a girl in there. I said, damn, I'm screwed. I said, don't be an idiot. I said, damn, I don't want to get into trouble, and I come and I get involved here with all the fucking gang. Well, damn, I didn't even know what to do anymore. I was really nervous, and I started using the stationary bike, and everyone was looking at me because I think I didn't even greet them. Today I think that from there I looked like a jerk. But I was terrified. I thought that the more serious they saw me, the more they would respect me. But it was a mistake because they saw me in a hostile way. During the day they let you interact with the women, but they made sure you didn't fuck them. Although at night if you agreed with one you could fuck her. I only found that out later, right? But well, then this guy asks me, where are you from and what are you doing here? But honestly, I was overwhelmed, bro, and I thought it was like in prison movies. You know, when you see a guy arriving at prison, right? So I said, damn, now they're all going to gang up on me. I didn't know what was going to happen, bro. And then I answered that guy badly. I soon don't really remember what I told him. But I answered him in a way that he understood that he shouldn't interrogate me, and then everyone changed their look towards me and saw me as if I felt really bad, that I felt superior to them. Well, and then they started looking at me like a fucking annoying monkey, and from there I think I earned the hatred of several guys there, I think. The thing is that I answered him badly. Among all those guys was the guy I had talked to in the dormitory when I arrived. I think they saw me as bipolar for changing my reaction, but I didn't know what to do, how to act. I had always been antisocial all my life, I still am, but now I know how to be softer, but well. So that's how it happened that time, man. And then I don't know if the gym emptied because they called us for an activity. We already had an activity schedule like yoga, Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, group and individual psychological therapy, gym, movies, etc. Now, and you see me say, there was little free time. Then we went to the fucking activity, and then several inmates started asking you individually where you're from, where you come from, and all that shit while you're there. And you answered that it was for smoking marijuana and all that shit, and you know, right? That night, honestly, they didn't do anything to me, but they did shout as a joke, pass me the new guy to fart him. Pass me the new guy too. Take out his beans. And they laughed, but you didn't laugh. You didn't know if they were all going to beat you up and who was going to start. I tell you, laughing now, but at that moment, I Was terrified thinking they were going to sexually abuse me. Ha ha. Ha 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 ha. It should be said that I had problems because in those first days a snitch, the famous sheep, went to accuse me to the nurse that I wasn't taking the pill of the day. It was a psychiatric medication. They checked me more exhaustively to validate that I did take the pill and that I didn't keep it anywhere or that I covered it with my tongue to not take it, since the snitch inmate who accused me to the nurse told them that I was keeping the pills and throwing them away. I admit that there I knew the power of sleeping pills. Oh, they gave them to me at the beginning since I couldn't sleep, but later when I demanded that they give me a quarter of a pill daily, the doctor told me that he wouldn't give them to me because otherwise my body wouldn't be able to sleep naturally without depending on the pills. Those pills left me drowsy and my body numb. I was stumbling and bumping into walls. I liked feeling sedated like that because it made the confinement more bearable. I thank the doctor for not allowing me to become addicted to sleeping pills. Be careful with pills, friends. It's very easy to overdose with any type of pills. I know, and now you shout. I know it was. For my fortune, I had to sleep in a bed next to a guy who was a colo. Well, that guy was really crazy, bro, and luckily for me, we listened to the same music. Honestly, I've always liked rap, hip-hop since I was a kid. We started talking about music. He told me, "Dan, bro, honestly, I don't know how you know all that music, man. You don't even look like a gangster or like you've been in jail or that you're all tattooed." I told him, "No, well, honestly, I'm just a kid from home, man, who just started smoking weed and my parents started freaking out and kicked me out of the house several times." And I told him part of my story, what was my story at that moment. Well, he told me, "No way, man. I never expected you to like that music, and just for that I kind of earned that guy's trust. But once he threatened me, ha ha ha, because he told me that everything he told me I shouldn't tell anyone, because if not, I would have to face him, and he would take revenge. That you'll only stay, I understand. And when I show and shot, the guy looked a lot like Eminem, but thinner, white-skinned like snow. He was like the personification of Eminem in my country. I always understood his way of being, because that guy was interned because he smoked crack, the lady crack, the famous crack that has destroyed thousands of lives. Well, and honestly, he did have a very tough, very painful withdrawal syndrome, because I saw how he had nightmares. They don't really go out on the ends. It says they get so stoned that stay outside. At night, he screamed, man. He was like traumatized. When they woke him up, he said there were many things he couldn't say, but that were very painful. He said that since he was a kid, his father beat him, and that from there he became tough, very tough and violent to survive on the street in gangs. Well, that guy said that supposedly he didn't remember having killed anyone. Well, but that in street fights he had dropped the fucking manhole cover on the head of one of the opponents of the rival gang, but he never knew if they died or not. If that guy is still alive and listening to this, may God bless him. I hope he's free, man, that he's well with his family. That guy will know who it is when he hears this story. This guy had even stabbed and threatened his wife with a knife. Then, this guy didn't get along with all the other inmates in the clinic. Only with a few inmates did he get along. With few did he have the confidence to talk. This guy, the colo, started telling me how each guy was there who was crossing the line with others, who stole, who was the sheep or the snitch. He told me, "I've already had problems with that guy, and he, the colo, had also had problems with several guys in there, right?" That's G. And then I was thinking, damn, because I knew that sooner or later I would have to defend myself. We slept in the hallway that led to the bathrooms, and you can imagine there were always people passing by, day and night, always passing and passing and passing and passing an eye, friend. And I'm a person, bro, who doesn't like to draw attention or be very exposed to crowds or to several people, because it's easy to lose control, or an unexpected negative event, or an attack towards any person occurs. You have to take care of your integrity always. I mean, I'm a person like that, but however I draw attention because I'm a person who is taller than average. Well, I'm corpulent. I was fat since then, but then I started exercising, and so I drew more. Tension, bro, right? And also, when arriving at a new place, everyone else starts looking at you like, it doesn't feel good, man, like you don't want to come here to stir up the neighborhood. I mean, uh, even if you don't want to, man, just by your presence, man, you already have problems. So we saw how they abused others. We started to see the evils, right? That when a guy fell asleep, just like that, they came to scare him. They told him, camera, bro, it's shaking, it's shaking. And the other guy got up very scared, and everyone laughing at him. Ha ha, stupid. Fuck you, stupid idiot. Go to sleep. And they left. You always saw the guys behaving like they were in elementary. In middle school, high school, overstepping with others. There will always be that kind of people. And there it was seen more. Because you were locked up with them. So imagine a big fucking mess. So there we had service assignments every week. There was a guy who was in charge for a week to work on his tolerance. Happened to everyone at least once during their stay. It was desperate to deal with others. And you know there's always a guy there who wants to stir things up and was traumatized with the Reynard, Valera Bible, and I don't know what other shit. I respect God, I'm spiritual, but I hate religions. It's the worst shit that exists in the world. And well, this sectarian asshole wanted to convince you, and then wanted to manipulate you. He was a shitty alcoholic. I also ended up telling him to fuck off, to go fuck his mother. Neurotic and alcoholic fucking monkey. If you're listening to this, go fuck your mother, you dog. No names or anything to maintain and respect anonymity, as well as not to glorify assholes. Seriously, bro. Why am I telling you this? Because, well, there's a gang that's over the top. Well, I mean, you know they're at your level, and you can defend yourself with punches. But there are others like the boxing kid. With him, you could lose. And to top it off, the first problem I had was with the boxer, the one who greeted me first, the one who first approached me, was the first one I had problems with. I mean, forget it, bullshit. There, they gave us a service to each, one that was rotating. So that guy that day had the day of visit to heat up the food that your family had left you. Well, and that guy, when we were lined up in the kitchen line to heat up the food, and I told him, what's up, bro? Well, heat up this food for me, please, right? Like that, man? I asked him, and he told me, no, man, like that in front of everyone. And then everyone got quiet, and they're waiting for the fight to happen, right? Because, well, let's be honest, well, when you're locked up, since there are no distractions, although there was television in the dining room, well, but you know, some of the guys who command and put only what they want to watch and don't let others change it, and it's always like that. Well, then another distraction is the fights. Well, that's the reality. Many ex-convicts call fights PlayStation, torturing people. For them it's a game, another distraction. So when he tells me he wasn't going to heat up the food, I said, why not? And he said, because I don't want to. I said, but why not? And he said, well, because I don't want to. And the kid with a mushroom haircut laughed in my face, humiliating me in front of everyone, right? But I already knew that he knew how to box and that he was more agile than me and was in good shape. Muscularly speaking, he did calisthenics. The guy was marked, and here he was, broad-shouldered, and here, damn, that guy could do the flag, the famous calisthenics exercise. Well, what was I going to do? A fat kid with no training or conditioning or anything? And seriously, I fear all the war. thought, no, man, if I really fight this guy, he's going to humiliate me in front of everyone. He's going to mop the floor with me, and honestly, man, seriously, I didn't dare to fight. Well, I said, go, man, and I stayed there, pissed off, and left. And then everyone was like, damn, twissie that. I mean, they didn't say it, but they were like, this guy didn't dare to fight, and the other kid was standing there with his ass up. And I stayed there with a lot of anger and left, man. But before I left, the guy who had humiliated me told me that he would heat up the food for me, and I gave him the container. Everyone wanted to see me being humiliated, and I didn't allow it, but from there I lost respect. And I said, damn that guy, what's up? Well, damn fucking bipolar. Because first he talked to me nicely the first day I arrived at the entrance. I never disrespected him. And I don't know if because of what happened in the gym, I didn't know anymore, right? I didn't know anymore why. Suddenly he was so arrogant. He also smoked weed, but also inhaled active. I thought I had to be careful with everyone because at any moment, anyone could disrespect me, and, well, you're already there. You don't even know why the other fucking monkey got angry with you. Because honestly, man, since we were all without drugs, everyone is with the fucking withdrawal syndrome. Plus it's hot. If a fly passes if you don't have sex or anything, it's a good excuse to fight. Everyone is neurotic. Well, this bastard, well. And then a fucking big guy wants to appropriate or feel like he's in jail here. I say in part because I'm sharing this with you. Because, for example, if you follow the same path, you're going to end up in jail with pure assholes like the ones I'm telling you about, who are only going to keep you subdued. They're only going to keep robbing you, asking you to socialize. No, I don't act. The famous socializing means that they extort you, that they take money from you, or that they treat you badly. Like these assholes, right? So I was left like that with the fucking anger of public humiliation and the frustration that he is stronger than you, and you don't want to be more humiliated. It's an internal struggle. And I thought, damn, now everyone is going to want to take advantage of me because I no longer have respect. Damn, how am I going to defend myself here and man if I know that Seer? With one punch he's going to fuck me up. And also, damn, he's crossing the line with me. And you know what the other problem is, bro. That's why I honestly don't like to say, and have never liked to, say what I do. Because people then think, here he comes showing off that he has a degree, man. Seriously, I don't have a finished degree, man. No degree. Well, I do have a finished technical degree in programming, bro, honestly. Shucks. But not a bachelor's degree. And I don't feel superior or inferior to anyone because of that. I don't feel smarter or dumber than others. For me, that has always been a worthless man. And what really matters is that you put in effort, that they see you're effective. But, well, I don't want to deviate from this. Well, but at that moment, I mean, that the inmates asked me where I came from and what I did. I answered that I studied architecture, and they kind of look at you like a fucking annoying kid who thinks he's better because he has a degree, wants to bullshit. And here he wants to stand you up with his fucking bullshit school. And you're with guys who have unfinished elementary school or didn't even finish kindergarten, let alone middle school or high school or anything. There's one or another educated person, but it's rare. 1 or 2 or 3% maximum, and you get to know them later because they're the quietest, the calmest, they're more intelligent. It is tradition, I don't want to tell you. Well, but they also went through the abuses that you went through, right? So it was tough, bro. It was tough, man. That night, well, I arrived and went to bed, man. And next to me there was Shaken chuck turned up to another guy. He was really fucked up, man. I mean, imagine that I told you that I slept next to the Carlo's bed. The other guy was dark, tall, fucked up. I always saw him lying down. He wore his tank top. He looked really fucker broad-shouldered. But I mean, he looked tough, man. And I said, no way, I never see him exercising. And he looks really fucked up. And then talking to that guy, well, that day, we said in here, so I wanted today that all restage. I arrived really upset. I told him what had happened in the kitchen. And he told me, seriously, that fucking punk, man, he also tried to pull that shit on me, bro. I told him to heat up the food for me, and he told me to fuck off. But seriously, I did jump the line, man. I went into the kitchen and told him, aren't you going to heat it up or what? And the kid honestly didn't have the balls and said it was a joke. I'll heat it up for you now. Oh. And he took out the fuck and told me, don't let them, man. That guy is going to keep crossing the line with you, bro. And I said, well, bro, but seriously, I don't know how to fight or anything, man. That guy looks like he's been around. He told me, well, man, but you can't look like a pussy. What matters is that you don't look like a pussy. And you know, the gang tells you what's real and what's going to happen, and how you have to defend yourself, that this is going to have consequences, right? And I said, damn. And then it started to feel really tense, and I felt like crying. But you can't let them see you crying, well, or you go to the bathroom, and there you cry silently. But someone was always watching to make sure you weren't being an idiot, because from there, the same gang, the clinic administrators chose a guy who coordinated everything. And that guy made sure you weren't in the bathroom for too long. I mean, so they don't go get high in there. There are no cigarettes or anything inside, I mean, unless you smuggle it in, right? But really, it wasn't allowed in consuming anything. You had 3 meals a day. The food has a lot of oil. They fattened you up with pure oil and carbohydrates, and they gave us very little meat, protein. I also had problems with one of the coordinators appointed by the gang. Well, you know, for stupid things like you're in line and they tell you to hurry up or do the chore again. Withdrawal syndrome makes you angry about everything and nothing, if you understand me. So you keep loading and unloading and loading and loading, and even if you commit to not exploding, not fighting, that's worthless in the end, because in the end you explode. It's impossible for someone to control themselves completely, at least in there. It's a fucking pressure cooker with a bunch of assholes who haven't consumed drugs or alcohol, who haven't fucked, who don't eat what they want, who don't go where they want, who don't commit crimes, who don't do their fucking aberrations that they all did together. There are also more problems with women, because women cause a big mess too. I mean, women invent gossip. Women complain more about the heat and stuff. Then they start fucking with inmates in there. Then their family comes, and there were women who sucked a guy's dick from in there and then there and watch it. Husband arrived, and just like that, without washing their mouth, they kissed their husband. Imagine their husband ate all the other guy's dick, full of sperm. He had his tongue, all his teeth, all his lips full of the other guy's semen from in there, and this guy savoring the cum. And also the other way around, the inmate who fucked the female inmate on the visit, then his wife, his official old lady, came, and well, I think he also went to the bathroom, and they gave him some blowjobs, and he kissed her the same. Imagine the mouth that kissed the wife was the same mouth that had sucked the pussy of the other female inmate. Usually the clandestine couples of inmates were all crackheads. I mean, but it was a big fucking mess. If the walls of that place could talk, they would have many stories to tell. But at the same time, you realize how men and women really are, or how we both are. When it was the boxing kid's turn to be the clinic coordinator, the kid called me nicknames Fatso and Flabby and fucking stuff like that, because I was fat. He said, flabby tits and give me a Russian, that flabby tit, and you know a bunch of nicknames they called me, the same ones they called me in elementary and, well, more, in middle school. You felt like you were in a fucking boarding school. But you felt like you were in a primary boarding school with a fucking scabby kid, man. But you couldn't leave, if you know what I mean. That they're scabbing and watching your things so they don't steal your food, your cookies, what your family brings you. When you looked away in the yatsa out, was the yacht, that night silo, right steady watching. Dining room, your food was no longer there. Things like that. Well, with this guy, the conceited kid who supposedly boxed, once I passed him the salt shaker at the table, man, and like normal I told him, here's the salt shaker, because the juvenile delinquent kid wanted the salt shaker. He had asked another guy for it, and I had it in my hand, and I passed it to him, expecting him to thank me and take the salt shaker. And he told me, no, I didn't ask you for it. I asked another guy for it. Leave it on the table. And he told me to fuck off, and I was left like, damn with this bastard. You wonder now. No, I don't see. Mean the guy wanted problems for everything and nothing. He wanted to have a reason to hit me, or for me to hit him, and for him to fuck me up. He had a lot of anger because this guy had seen his father rape his sisters at night. The previous is what that guy told in the AA meetings. Because we had Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. So the guy was very traumatized and supposedly wanted to let everything out with fights and punches. You know, the classic juvenile delinquents, the classic guys who come from the correctional facility and who are supposedly incorrigible. They are good at fighting, they are in good shape, but their way of thinking is very express and very kill or flee. I mean, they either value their life a lot or they don't give a fuck. But well, I never fought within this guy, seriously, bro. I always avoided him. I put up with all the nicknames he called me. Well, I also ended up crying when my mom came, and I told her to take me out, and she said no. Well, my boss always told me that she wasn't going to take me out, and the problem was that by crying there in front of everyone during the visit, I also showed myself as weak. Well, because everyone saw how I was, crying there during the visits, and then I looked like a weak man. Well, later I understood it. At that moment I didn't understand it. I said, well, now I'd better start crying, and my boss will take me out, right? And fuck, my boss told me to fuck off. Well, from the first visit I started crying, then I stopped crying so much, but that's how it was. Then another guy arrived, who supposedly had been in the federal police but smoked crack, and that's why he was suspended. I also had problems with that guy, right? That federal had a fucking trauma that his father didn't love him and his fucking mother and Shanwell. That guy had also been in an annex and said that supposedly he had been offended in AA in an annex. An annex is like a rehabilitation clinic, but more intense, but obviously it's a private house. And where a lot of shit happens there, in this case where I was at this moment, that I'm telling you was a rehabilitation clinic where the government still interferes a bit. Let's say a little more. And so, supposedly there are fewer chances of them crossing the line, of raping a woman, of raping a guy, or beating you to a pulp, or tying you up, or wetting you, or torturing you. Supposedly, it doesn't happen. But that doesn't mean there isn't abuse from the inmates with more time towards the newer inmates, even though they can't fight or be extorted in there. Honestly, it does happen. They intimidate you too. Share things, food, etc. And don't now. Then this supposed federal police arrives and says that his father hates him. That's what he said in the AA meetings. Note that anonymity is not being broken. I'm not saying any names, so no one knows who I'm talking about. Well, I see drug addict cops as neither angels nor demons. They're like a lukewarm egg. I don't know what morality they follow, but well, Actually, unfair. At least I'm a drug addict, man. But honestly, I'm not playing both sides, if you know what I mean. So this guy, and you know the guy, stood up talking about his operations and that he knew military tactics. And a lot more bullshit, right? And he was so anti-me. And look, with that guy, the same thing happened as with the guy who supposedly boxed. I never did anything to that guy. And in fact, when he arrived, we also talked, because that guy one day saw me crying during the visit and talked to me to comfort me so I wouldn't feel sad. I mean, the guy was nice to me, but then the guy started telling me that when it was my turn to work in the kitchen, I grabbed my nose, my mouth, and dirtied the food. He wanted a fight and said the same thing in meetings with all the psychologists and doctors of the clinic. He said it's that you're not very clean. Supposedly, you grab your nose, you grab the food, and almost grab your ass to dirty the food. I never did that, but the guy, I don't know if because of withdrawal syndrome or who knows what, but he also started to lose it, bro. And then the guy started attacking me because there were meetings there with the psychologists and psychiatrists from time to time, right? No, yeah, I salute. That guy accused me. We made a circle and there were like 50, 60 bastards, right? And I wondered, I was see. One day, bro, we were cleaning the clinic. So I tell you that they rotated us in the services. Sometimes it was the pros, the ass, and they do that, or suit. There I was that ball. Kitchen, attending the kitchen. The dining room, cleaning the dining room, cleaning the patio, sweeping, mopping the bathrooms, cleaning the gym, all that stuff. So that day, it was this guy's turn to clean the dormitory, the federal police. He let other guys pass, and I passed later. But since we already had a beef, me and that guy already had problems, well, I said, well, if you let those guys pass, I'm still going to pass, man. So I passed, and he told me, fucking kid, you're dirty. Are you going to pass like that here when I just finished cleaning? And I told him, no, I'm just passing. Here, I'm not dirtying anything. He told me, do you want some fucking hits on your head? I mean, the guy wanted to hit me with the broomstick on the head. He told me, I'm going to give you some all fucking hits, some fucking punches with the broomstick on your head so you learn. And I don't know what. You know, man, he started humiliating me in public here, well, but we were still inside the route. Dormitory, and then I stay here, and he tells me, damn son of a bitch, don't be a pussy, when I beat you up. I also started answering him, and I stayed outside the bathroom. I don't, if I brushed my teeth or went to the bathroom and came back, and that guy was still there. He wasn't telling me anything anymore. But the guy was just looking at me sideways. I mean, imagine the guy was looking for trouble. Well, maybe that guy would say the same about me. I don't know if he's listening to the podcast. Well, I also send greetings. He knows that there's no resentment from me, right? I'm telling how things happened. Well, and everyone leaves, man. I stay there. I go back in, man. And then this guy says to me, what the fuck? Kid, don't you understand? To cut it short, they ended up challenging me to go out to the patio to fight him. They were all shouting from outside the dormitories for me to come out to the fight. The federal was already outside the dormitory, waiting for me to come out, so I went out to the main hallway, and the guy told me he was going to fuck me up. So I stood in front of him about 5 centimeters away. It looked like we were going to kiss. He was shorter than me, so I mocked him. Poor me. My dad doesn't love me, and that's why I do drugs. That's why I smoke crack. This asshole froze, just like my brother did. He stood there looking at me with a lot of hatred and wanting to cry, but he couldn't move, he couldn't hit me. Even though he challenged me to hit him, I didn't do it. Then he froze when I humiliated him by bringing up his past in front of everyone. Everyone wanted to fight, but the kid couldn't move anymore. And I ended up being the guy who had more balls to face him. Then the little bitch went to accuse me of violating his anonymity. Ha ha, fucking snitch. He was the first one to complain about snitches or rats. He said he could take it, but he didn't. The psychologists, doctors, psychiatrists, and social workers scolded me, but they also scolded him. The federal police, who froze, resented me forever and kept criticizing and accusing me in all the meetings he could. He wanted me to leave the clinic. But I held on more to finish my treatment. You realize that psychologists are more fucked up and crazier than the inmates. The psychiatrist had a fucking drug addict face that he couldn't handle and was sleep deprived. Maybe he was even addicted to alcohol. I mean, you realize how doctors fucked the social workers, or well, the nurses at night when they stayed to watch, because several times they were caught. One to start and this as terror should develop the soul man or traveler. What also happened once, man, is that when you went to the bathroom, man, then they took your mattress and wet it and threw it on the roof, and you had to go down and get it and lie down on your wet mattress, and you had to put up with it, because if not, you were the snitch, you were the rat, and no one likes the snitch, right? You have to put up with it or defend yourself, right? And not say about anything about anyone or to anyone. But then there are some guys who are supposedly the toughest and act like pussies, like this guy who was supposedly a federal police and acted like a pussy, and I couldn't take it, right? At that moment, what also happened those days was that other guys fought, and one guy was expelled because he headbutted another. They told us, if they hit each other, we're going to expel the one who hits the other first, right? Or rather, if the other also hits the other, we're also going to expel him. So you're like, no way. Well, you see that this guy is a fucking a scab man, and supposedly you're here taking care of things, but at the same time you let there be messes, and when there are hits, you look for someone to pay. I mean, imagine it was like a mini prison. The system. I'm not going to tell you it's a prison, no, and with respect, because thank God, God has always saved me, and I believe will always save me from those places because, well, I behave well, I don't do stupid things. I'm just telling what I went through at that moment, and with the people I was with. It was like a self-government system. I don't see anything as long as you can take it. There's no problem until there are hits, when there are bruises, when there are fights, when they're about to beat each other up. Now I want to look for the one to pay. I mean, it's all like letting everyone reach their limit. Well, if you understand me. There were some who were given injections and stuff, but well, that's worthless. Well, you realize the exciting emotional changes, of people in there. Then they also stop talking to you. Then they want to lose it. They want to send you. They want to subdue you. You have to tell them to fuck off, right? But there are things that are inevitable, man, like when you come back from the bathroom. One time I went to the bathroom, man. I went knowing about the wet mattress and all that they did to you. They always saw me as that aged wet. The addiction start. Spoiled kid from my mom, well, and since I cried during the visit, I didn't know what the fuck. It was a sign of weakness. When there was a visit, no one messed with you. No one told you anything. Well, but as soon as it was over, they insinuated that you should barter. They were insistent like an extortion. You also learn good and bad things, but not to go out and do them. Honestly, you can do it. But, well, you're going to have your consequences. Well, I listened to all that stuff. I mean, honestly, in there was a guy who had been in jail for robbery. That guy told us that he was, shit, and it's that guy, sounds already 19 years old. He says he had been in the penitentiary, and that guy said that, well, in there the fights with knives, with blades, the stabbings, no. He explained to us how to use a blade to not kill someone, only to hurt them. He told me, "Look, man, seriously, when you stab a guy and listen, everyone who is listening to this, what I'm going to say next is not for you to go and do it. That's why all the warnings are at the beginning of the video, right? I'm just explaining everything I lived through, everything that was explained to me as it is. If after listening to this, you want to go and do it, honestly, that's not my responsibility. It's not my problem, no. But I'm going to tell you how it is. This guy was a 19-year-old correctional type guy, an incorrigible kid. Like the movie Dennis the Menace, but with drugs, haha. Imagine these sons of bitches always fucking around, always causing trouble, stealing, destroying, taking things from you, subjugating others. They're real sons of bitches, always giving you nicknames, always making fun of you. I mean, it's a constant scabbing that they're busting your balls 24 hours a day, even when you're asleep. Sometimes there were moments when the guy calmed down a bit and started talking to you normally, right? Without wanting to fuck with you, and he told me, "No, man, seriously, when you're going to fight, man, with knives or blades, man, well, honestly, you don't always try to kill the other guy, man, because you know that if you kill him inside the jail or wherever, you're going to get more years in jail for homicide. So it can be said, well, honestly, man, what you do is that the blade you have, man, just let out about 1/2 centimeter, the blade, man. You have to put the blade between your middle finger and your ring finger. In the middle of those two fingers, you have to put the blade, man, and only from the ring finger out should a maximum of 1/2 centimeter come out, so that, man, when you stab someone, man, you don't kill them, you don't pierce them, because that's the problem with many guys who get on the bus. What is getting on the bus? Getting on the bus is jail slang. Getting on the bus means that, for example, you kill a guy and you get more years in jail. You were originally going for 5 years, and you get another 30 years in there because you killed a guy, or you get years in jail because you sell drugs. Getting on the bus is increasing the bad things or your crime, or taking on more crimes that you don't have initially. So they say that, so you don't get on the bus, just stab like that with only 1/2 centimeter or less, a few millimeters, so you don't pierce the skin, but you don't pierce any organ. Obviously, those guys know where to stab. Don't stab anywhere in the front of the body. They stab you in the shoulders, in the arms, in the hand, in the legs. No, because in the legs, you can hit the femoral vein, and you bleed out just like in the neck. I repeat, what I'm saying is not for anyone to go and do it, or for anyone to say that, based on this, they did it. No, I'm not responsible. Here, everyone is responsible for the crimes they may commit after listening to this, if they go and do it or not. Here, it's being made clear why things are done like this, because the people who commit those crimes do it, but we're not telling them to do it. They're not going to try to kill you, but if they're very high and very aggressive, or if they're scared, they're going to let the whole blade out. That's when they're going to pierce an organ and add. You're going to be screwed, you're going to be in trouble, and you're going to die. So that's what this guy explained to us. Obviously, I've never done that, and I never will, and I never did, but I just heard that knowledge and said, well, obviously that guy has been with pure murderers, rapists, extortionists, kidnappers, dismemberers, etc. So all that, well, of course that guy knows more than me. Well, he has had a harder survival than I have, right? So whether you like it or not, if you want to continue in the mess and continue being a person and perfecting your mastery of being an asshole or being a fucking demon, you will do it. However, I said, no. Well, honestly, man, no. I respect people a lot. I'm empathetic. I don't like to hurt people. Never, bro. Honestly, man, because everything comes back to you, man. He who lives by the sword dies by the sword. Never, never, never forget that, man. So what I tell you, and I'm going back to what I couldn't avoid, man, is that one time I went to the bathroom, man, I came back, and when I came back, I just felt the fucking blanket, because I had already seen it. When you went to the bathroom and came back, they wrapped you in a blanket and beat you up. That's what this guy did, who I had problems with, the federal police, because he knew how to do those military training interventions. Those submissions, and all that kind of tactics. So the guy would jump like a bat. Either victim or any other guy was caught. He wrapped us in the big blankets, and then at that moment 10, 15 assholes came out of all. The guys who were supposedly sleeping and started giving us punches and kicks, and you wrapped up like scrambled eggs. Huh, they were sons of bitches. Now it makes me laugh. But it was a mess when you were being beaten. And then you even felt like a guy would jump and let all his weight fall with both legs like a double kick. Like those neck breakers. The truth is that we were someone fucking animals, some more beasts than others, but they did give you a beating, with pure pellets, with pure blows, with fists and legs, with all the strength they had, but they let all their weight fall on your head, man, your ribs, man. I mean, wherever their blows landed, they didn't care, and if you had problems with some of them before, well, they hit you harder, It was a jungle. They give you a fucking beating, not too much, well, but I don't remember them leaving bruises. I'm not going to exaggerate either. And you can't be a snitch and say, oh, they did this to me. Because if you're a pussy, you're also making everyone against you. But even so, they're going to rob you. They're going to do things to you because they don't care. And if you're a pussy, if you're the snitch, you're more abusable, let's say. But you say, well, that's how things are here. I mean, you kind of accept part of that. That's how things are. The heat is the main excuse to fight. There were fans. It was very hot. I was there during the spring. I don't remember exactly what day I entered. I think I was there between March, April, May. I almost always end up in fucking spring. Times. Later I would know with 2 more annexes that I had to live in, and that I will also tell you in detail annex by annex when we get to that part of the story. God willing. First God. When you complete 2 months interned, they start letting you go out. The complete treatment was 3 months. Well, but when you had 1 month left to leave, supposedly you had therapeutic outings where you had left from Saturday and returned on Sunday. And it was to see if you didn't get high at that moment. They did an anti-doping test before leaving the first time to see if you were already clean of the wet drug or alcohol with which you had arrived before being admitted to the clinic. I mean, what you already had in your body. And they also did an anti-doping test before and after your therapeutic outings. With family, I mean when you returned on Sunday afternoon. So there were many guys who were given an anti-doping test there, and well, they tested positive, and from there you can't continue with their treatment inside even if you wanted to continue paying, well, no more, because the medical team told you. Well, it's that you can't resist the urge to consume substances. We already gave you an opportunity, and here many guys would like your place to rehabilitate. That's what they told you, and well, fuck, they sent you away. They asked you, do you know how to buzz? And you answered, yes. Then they told you, well, buzz the fuck off. And to the street to continue in the mess. But well, I was there for 3 months. No, I didn't get high. And I also had my therapeutic appointments, bro. I finished the treatment there, and yes, I completed the 3 months there. Before leaving, they tell you to have goals, and the goal was to leave and continue studying architecture. Honestly, I wanted to switch to engineering, because let me tell you quickly, I don't remember very well if it was before or after leaving the clinic that I had taken a ticket in a totally legal random draw of places in a new public university, where I could study telecommunications engineering. That's what caught my attention. I had already researched. The point is that I stayed in its engineering, and when I told my mother, she forbade me, and I didn't have the balls to rebel and tell her to fuck off. Because let me tell you that my mother has like 3 degrees. She's a dentist, psychologist, and has a doctorate in psychopedagogy. Ha ha ha. And not even with all those papers could she control me. I always fucked her. I've known since I was a child that I came to break mothers to stand everyone in my family on their asses. But well, that helped me to later rebel against that bitch. Whether you like it or not, that experience in that rehabilitation clinic, honestly, I feel that it did help me because it was the place, at least one of the toughest places. But where I have been and where I did feel how the tough stuff was with a gang of thieves, extortionists, well, I saw how the guys came out of jail already very messed up, already looking for trouble, already for everything and nothing they want to fight. Well, I mean, you realize how quickly they look for problems, and I'm not saying that I don't. Well, but then you realize the withdrawal syndrome of each one and what it caused. Also, my friend the Kohler there wanted to fight with another bastard. My friend Lou Golo left before his time because he wanted to stab another guy, and there you see how the life of many people goes to shit for reacting under intense emotions, feelings, and thoughts. And you see how they don't care about their life. There was a girl in the clinic who had a fucking vaginal infection that was very tough, man. There she was being passed around among some bank robbers, chacas, reggaetoneros, and other macuaros. Women always choose the scum. I mean, the same as in society. I mean, honestly, the fact of isolating yourself only makes it so that obviously you feel the fuck of all. Confinement, you value a lot of things. Food, freedom, a bathroom, your bed, that no one is fucking with you, right? That they don't want to hit you, that they don't want to subdue you, that they don't want to extort you, humiliate you. But really what you do is realize that if the fucking effects that the other addict has, you also have them. Some, not all. And also locked up, you talked with the older people with the biggest addiction, most side effects, people who started screaming until they were given their pill like clonazepam to control the withdrawal syndrome of synthetic substances or alcohol. And then I saw the old ladies who went to see their inmates, and whether you like it or not, you start to reflect. Like putting yourself in a fucking mirror and telling yourself, no way, man, I don't want to end up like this guy. At that age, and with my boss still admitting me, you say, fuck, I don't want to waste my life in these places, neither in the annex, nor in jail, nor in the correctional, nor in the juvenile hall, nor in the penitentiary, nor in the psychiatric hospital, nor end up in the hospital, nor in any of those fucking hellish asshole caves. No, man. And honestly, you start to become aware. That's if you want to. If you don't want to, you can continue the same. I'm not going to tell you that. After leaving the clinic, I didn't get high. I chilled. Didn't smoke anything, no. Honestly, I did continue doing it. I didn't last even a year. I got close to 9 months. Ha ha ha. Well, I'm not going to tell you no. So I had already tried LSD acid. Acid. Nitrogen. Famous lysergic acid diethylamide before entering that rehabilitation clinic. And if I'm wrong, because more than 15 years have passed, it was after. But apparently I had already tried LSD, the coke I think too. I love to snort a fucking snow, and that shit takes you up and down. Or that's what I remember. What you feel with the fucking coke and weed together is that you go up and down, up and down. Don't return and shoot down. I mean, you relax with the effect of marijuana, but since you added coke or powdered cocaine, you did what we call a primo, a little bath, a glaze, a little snow, and you smoke it. Well, all right. Away comes the fucking hi-ho-ho-ho. It's crazy that shit kids don't do this at home. If not, the boogeyman will come and eat you. So you're like on a fucking roller coaster up and down. I mean, your whole fucking tongue, your whole fucking snout gets numb, and honestly, I did like that shit. Well, thank God. Honestly, I never tried crack, the lady crack. Well, alcohol I have tried and so on. But no, Lord, alcohol I also respect, because they destroy you. I'm not saying that marijuana doesn't, but it seems that marijuana gives you a little more chance to enjoy. I'm not saying that you should smoke weed. What I'm telling you is what you're going to experience in reality if you try it alone or combined. I'm not recommending that you do anything I did. I'm sharing my experience so you don't go through what I went through, because what I'm telling you right now about the rehabilitation clinic is just the beginning. After the clinic, I still went through 2 annexes and a fall to the delegation for smoking weed on the street. It wasn't right away my fall in the other places I mentioned. Years passed. Things happened. I've been consuming marijuana for almost 17 years. Well, and I can't tell you that there's no mental deterioration or that there's no spiritual, mental, cognitive deterioration. If you stop doing it, you can recover your memory, all that stuff. But what I always told you, and what I told you in previous chapters, is that it leaves you with a mental fog. This does disperse when you lower the dose. Until you abstain, something I do tell you clearly, and this is going to clash with many who call themselves recovered from addictions. There is no sobriety. Once you try the substance, the moments when you stop doing it are only moments of abstinence. Behind the consumption, there is a neurosis that only grows with time and looks for other better accepted addictions. Sex, food, any emotional escape works. Excessive exercise also causes damage. Even drinking water in excess can kill you. Do you understand me? Put in effort. You must accept reality and do what you can to improve it with the resources you have in the years present. That's it. Live only for today. If you can't stop consuming, the moment will come when something inside you will impulse you. If you want to stop doing drugs and can't, then ask for help. But consider that wherever you go, it's already messed up, and you run the risk of learning and hearing about stronger substances and going out to try them. Marijuana is the least of the evils. That's all. The reality of the real world. Let's stop the bullshit. You can live a functional life consuming marijuana, but you should always keep in mind that your job, good nutrition, sports, will always be the priority before smoking marijuana. But well, that's how that place was, man. Just like I'm telling you, that's how it was, bro. If any of those I knew in there are listening to this, I hope they're well, and that they leave their clue down below in the comments. If they're listening to this podcast, they know who I'm referring to. I don't need to give more clues. And what I'm saying is honestly the pure truth. Well, that was my experience in that place, man. I don't wish it on anyone. I don't recommend it to anyone. The best would be to go to some AA meetings, but you also have to see well in which group of an hour and a half, and not to annex yourself, not to intern yourself. There are people who can't stand being outside consuming, or can die if you don't annex them, if you don't intern them in a clinic. You have to evaluate case by case. Well, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but according to my experience, there are people who don't make it outside. But there are also people who don't learn anything being in there. They don't practice the good things learned. They go back to doing the bad things. There are people who half learn or who protect themselves and want to continue consuming. And there are people who do suddenly stop doing it, right? Because there were people who went to sell popsicles and supposedly they said they were also interned there and left and never got high again. For me, that's respectable, that's admirable, but they also struggled. But well, that's how that experience was, bro. This and well, honestly, I hope you listen to everything I'm telling you that you learn and avoid everything I'm sharing. It heals me to talk about this, and it serves you, my suffering, as an example of a stumbling block that can be avoided. You can. I'm number 33 of life. Those who know about numerology, about astrology, will understand that my mission is that of sacrifice and service to others without forgetting to attend to myself. First, my mission. In. Life is to be sacrificed so that others learn. Only then will I achieve redemption. The task that God gave me is to descend into hell in my own flesh, in my own life, and return to tell how I made each wound without fear of what happens, because we are born to die. Death finds man, and normal. When man is tired of living, when you're broken inside, just remember to do these 3 things. These 3 things will save your life. 1, never stop moving. 2, find temporary allies. 3, value what you still have, not what you've already lost. These 3 things are what John Wick would do when everyone is against you. How are they going to talk to me about the devil if I come from hell? Ha!